Hello, my name is Emily Warrens, and my topic is on the psychology of mathematics, tracking correlations between attitudes towards math and math performance. I chose this topic because mathematics is highly prevalent in several areas of study. Despite this, it has largely a very negative connotation where people think that the subject is pretty useless. Despite this, there are still people who choose to pursue math as part of their careers, or students who choose math as their favorite subject. And so psychologists have been interested in looking at this disparity in opinions, and they've been trying to look at it through several different components, including biological, psychological, sociological, and socioeconomic. And so the present study hopes to present a preliminary explanation for this phenomenon through new research on the opinions, performance, and levels of math anxiety, math self-efficacy, and math self-concept of college students currently enrolled in mathematics courses. So some important definitions that will come up several times throughout this presentation, and I will reiterate the definitions when they come up, are math anxiety, which is the anxiety felt specifically when performing mathematical tasks; math self-concept, which is how someone perceives their own mathematical abilities, whether they think they are very good at math or bad at math or anywhere in between; and then math self-efficacy, which is how confident someone is in their own mathematical abilities. They're saying, I am very confident that I could do this math task, or I am not very confident that I could do that math task, or again, anywhere in between. And so first we're going to start with the literature review. First, we're going to be looking at the biological components. Firstly, math in the brain. So it was found that the two parts of the brain that are involved with math are the interparietal focus and the inferior temporal gyrus. And so it was found that the interparietal focus is responsible for the problem-solving aspect of mathematics, while the inferior temporal gyrus is responsible for activating when numbers are presented. It was found in a study using blind mathematicians who were either born blind or became blind at a very young age that this doesn't have to just be at the visual presentation of numbers, but can also be at the audible presentation of numbers. Now, within the brain, math is actually classified as a type of language with a spatial element. So this can be important because teaching children hand gestures as they learn math will include the motor area of the brain and will increase math performance later in life, which means that involving more areas in doing math will increase someone's mathematical ability. Working memory also plays a role as a mitigator between math anxiety and math performance. Since math anxiety draws attention away from mathematical tasks, it compromises the working memory and lowers math achievement. So it is then important to lower math anxiety in order to improve the working memory during that task, which then improves math performance. Now, the most controversial component of studying the psychology of math is a genetic component. And so these two studies did a longitudinal twin study. Now, twin studies are used in psychology to test for genetics, just looking between identical twins and fraternal twins to see if it is a genetic link or if it is an environmental thing. And so the parts of math that they specifically looked at here were calculations. Could the children solve the problems? And then could they identify mathematical symbols? Could they then apply those mathematical symbols? And then could they do the calculations in a timed environment? And it was found that all of the components, except for the timed calculations, were found to be more environmentally linked than genetically linked in children under the age of 10, whereas timed calculations were found to be more genetically linked. But then again, after the age of 10, it was found that all four of them were more genetically linked. And so what's important here is that a greater ability at a young age to compute quickly and correctly could have an effect on later ability to learn math quickly, since math is dependent upon itself and is constantly building the past knowledge up. And so looking at psychological components, the fade out effect is a phenomenon in which students receive an intervention in a certain skill, in this case, mathematics, and then after the intervention, they will plateau with their skills, while their peers who did not receive the intervention gradually catch up so that they are once again at the same skill level. And the majority of math fade out was found to result from pre-existing differences in children. So rather than what the teacher is doing, it's found that these differences are found more to be genetically linked or from the home environment. A more prevalent concern than fade out is the student mindset, which can help determine success or failure for many students. And so students with the mindset that intelligence is fixed often fall into a self-fulfilling prophecy where they believe that that they cannot learn any more in their math class, and then that leads to them then failing in that said math class. Whereas students who believe intelligence is malleable are more likely to persist in solving difficult math problems and then more likely then to succeed. Similarly, fluid reasoning is one's ability to problem solve, and that also predicts future math ability and achievement. So again, math anxiety is anxiety someone feels specifically when performing math tasks. Math self-concept is how someone perceives their own mathematical ability, and math self-efficacy is how confident someone is in their own mathematical ability. And it was found that these are all correlated to math performance, where math anxiety has a negative correlation. So the more math anxiety someone has, the worse they will perform. And math self-concept and math self-efficacy are positively correlated with math performance. So the more confident someone is in their own abilities and the better they perceive their own math abilities, then the better they will perform. And what's actually interesting here is that since math anxiety is working against math self-concept and math self-efficacy, it was found that having a high math self-concept and a high math self-efficacy can actually combat the effects of math anxiety. So someone can have high math anxiety, but if they have a high math self-concept and high math self-efficacy, they can still perform well because the self-concept and the self-efficacy will overcome the anxiety. The biggest area of research in the psychology of math is math gender stereotypes, and looking at the idea that women are no good at math and looking at how that idea affects women in their math ability, and then also see if it has any effect in men's ability to do math. And so firstly, the implicit and explicit biases. So the difference between these are explicit biases is biases that someone will explicitly say, whereas implicit and biases are is a bias that someone holds on the inside that they don't necessarily express or know that they have. And so it was found that these stereotypes, both implicit and explicit, are held by both men and women, which results in fewer women being in math-related careers. Women also hold a greater negative opinion of math than men. And so these stereotypes actually have a greater impact on math anxiety in women and therefore a great impact on their math performance. Implicit math gender stereotypes are stronger in elementary and high schoolers than they are in middle schoolers, and these stereotypes found in children are often carried into adulthood where it becomes very hard to get rid of them. So girls have a much higher rate of math anxiety than boys, and it was also found that the relationship between math anxiety and math performance is much more detrimental in girls than it is in boys. So if a girl and a boy have the same level of math anxiety and it's a high level, that girl will actually perform worse in math than the boy will, even though they have the same level of math anxiety. Math anxiety was also found to be a better predictor for girls going into math-based careers than for boys. And so high math anxiety means that girls are less likely to then choose a math-based career. Whereas for boys, it was math self-efficacy and overall math ability. So the more confident a boy feels in his own math abilities and the better that he is in math, the more likely he will be to go into a math-based career. And so math gender stereotypes increase the implicit biases, which increases math anxiety in women and girls, whereas it doesn't really do anything with boys and men. So the math gender stereotypes really have no effect on boys and men with their math anxiety or their math performance. Also, increasing implicit math gender stereotypes in women also decreases performance, whereas decreasing implicit biases increases their performance. And so this just shows that women appear to have more obstacles to overcome in order to succeed in math classes or to enter a career in mathematics. So the sociological and socioeconomic components include parents in math, or more specifically, how often parents talk about math with their children at home. And so it's found that the more parents talk about math with their children increases that child's performance in math. And it also ends up decreasing that parent's own math anxiety. The socioeconomic status comes in that children who are from a family of low socioeconomic status are less likely to pursue a career in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, whereas a child from a family of high socioeconomic status is more likely to pursue a career in STEM. What's interesting between these two factors of parents in math and socioeconomic status is that parents talking about their math actually can actually overcome any effects of socioeconomic status. So a child from low socioeconomic status whose parents talk about with them with math often is actually now more likely to pursue a career in STEM than a child of high socioeconomic status whose parents did not talk to them about math. And so now looking at the present study, looking again at the important definitions: math anxiety, the anxiety felt specifically when performing mathematical tasks; math self-concept, how someone perceives their own mathematical abilities. Am I good? Am I bad? Am I somewhere in between? And math self-efficacy, how confident someone is in their own mathematical abilities. Am I very confident? Am I not very confident? Am I kind of okay, I guess? So the hypotheses that I formulated for this study is that math anxiety will have a detrimental effect on each math self-concept, math self-efficacy, and math performance, and that worse math anxiety will also indicate lower parent math opinion. I also hypothesized that math self-concept, math self-efficacy, parent math opinion, and math performance will all score similarly with each other. So basically what these 2 points mean is that if someone has high math anxiety, I expect to see low math self-concept, low math self-efficacy, low math performance, negative parent math opinion. Whereas if someone has high math self-concept, I expect to see then high math self-efficacy, a positive parent opinion, and a good score on the math performance test. And so looking at the method, the participants were all BHSU students from mathematics courses who have previously completed Math 114, which is college algebra or a higher level mathematics course. They were recruited from in-person classes here on the BHSU Spearfish main campus. There were 13 participants between the ages of 18 to 37. There were 4 male and 9 female, and the races that they identified as were Black, white, Hispanic, white Asian, Hispanic, Cajun, and other. The breakdown of their majors were 1 mathematics, 1 math education, 1 math science and composite, 4 exercise science, and 6 biology. The 13 participants were also asked what their family household income was growing up, and it was reported 1 was under 20,000, 4 were in the 20,000 to 40,000 range, 1 was in the 40,000 to 60,000 range, 3 were in the 80,000 to 100,000 range, and 4 more than 100,000. They were also asked what kind of city type they grew up in. So 6 were from a rural area or a small town, 5 were from a suburban area or nearby a city, and 2 were from an urban area or a city. So the measures and procedures, there was a demographics questionnaire that just asked them for their age, major, race, year in school, gender, first language, and then those 2 questions from the last slide, how they would describe their family household income growing up and how they would describe their place growing up. And then there was a mathematics questionnaire which consisted of 19 questions. The first question just asked them how many college level mathematics courses they've taken, and the other 18 questions were broken into 4 sections that measured math anxiety, math self-concept, math self-efficacy, and parents in math. The math anxiety section was 5 questions long and was rated on a 5-point Likert scale. The math self-concept was 4 questions long and rated on a 4-point Likert scale. The math self-efficacy was 5 questions long and rated on a 5-point Likert scale. And the parents in math sections was 4 questions long and rated on a 4-point Likert scale. The mathematics performance test was 60 questions long. It was made up of 53 college algebra questions followed by 7 calculus questions. This was the only part of the overall study that was timed. They were given 60 minutes to complete the mathematics performance test. They were allowed use of paper and pencil and a non-scientific, non-graphing calculator, all of which was provided for them. And so the procedure, the students would come in, they would read and sign an informed consent sheet, and then they would sit down at the computer and they would begin by filling out the demographics questionnaire. To get rid of any order effects, the computer randomly assigned them to either take the mathematics questionnaire or the mathematics performance test first. And so once they got done with the other, it automatically led into the other one. And when they were done, they were debriefed and they were free to leave. So the results. This is the descriptive statistics and correlations table, which I will just display here very quickly as I point out the important correlations, which are the ones with the asterisks. So the number of correct answers was negatively correlated with math anxiety and was also positively correlated with math self-concept. Math anxiety and math self-concept were negatively correlated, and math self-efficacy and parents in math were positively correlated, and these were also strong correlations. And so now looking into what exactly these correlations mean. So again, the purpose of the study was to look at the relationships between math anxiety, math self-concept, math self-efficacy, math performance, and parent math opinion. And once more, math anxiety is anxiety someone feels specifically when performing a math-related task. Math self-concept is how someone perceives their own mathematical abilities, and math self-efficacy is how confident someone is in their own mathematical abilities. So the strong negative correlation between math anxiety and the number of questions correctly basically says that the higher math anxiety someone has, the worse they will perform mathematically. Or since this is a correlational study and not a causational study, the worse someone performs mathematically, the higher math anxiety someone has. Additionally, higher math self-concept also indicates better math performance. So basically, people perceive their own mathematical abilities accurately. Additionally, it was found that high math anxiety also meant lower math self-concept. So the more anxious someone felt about math meant that they perceived themselves as being worse at math. Interestingly, math self-efficacy had no relationship with math anxiety, math self-concept, or math performance, meaning that the way that people felt, meaning that how confident people felt about their own math abilities didn't really relate to how anxious they felt or how well they did or how they perceive their own mathematical abilities. Additionally, perceived parent math opinion also had no relationship with math anxiety, math self-concept, or math performance. However, perceived parent opinion and math self-efficacy were positively correlated, meaning that the more positively the students perceived their parents' math opinion, the more confident they were in their own abilities. So just some limitations and future directions of this study. So some limitations would be with participants, the number of participants. Recruiting more participants could strengthen the results. The study consisted mostly of female participants, and since it was found that math anxiety is higher in women than in men, that could have some effect on the results. And then also class recruitment. All of these students were recruited specifically from math courses, but they could also be extended to be recruited from different kinds of classes, such as psychology or English or history or music, as long as they had completed Math 114 or a higher level math course. The limits with the mathematics performance test mostly lie and how the directions were perceived, and then the time limit element. So some students may have perceived the directions to be answer as many questions as they could within the time limit, whereas others might have tried to be answering as many correctly as they could in the time limit. If students were trying to answer more correctly, then they might not have finished the entire test. And so not having a time limit could then have students focus on answering as many questions correctly as they could without having to deal with the time limit. However, removing a time limit could then reduce the number of participants willing to participate in the study, since some people might not want to give that sort of time commitment. Additionally, with the parent math opinion, one limitation is that students were asked to rate the parent's opinion, whereas it would be more accurate, it would be a more accurate judgment to have the parents be surveyed themselves for their mathematical opinion. Some future directions, again, a wider recruitment of participants, just recruiting from more than just mathematics classes. Socioeconomic status, we did ask the students in the demographics some socioeconomic status-based questions, but they were not used in the results, and so those could be used as another way to analyze the results. Studies could also look into the way that people learn math and the reason that some topics are easier for one person than another, which could be especially helpful as far as teaching math. And these could relate to math anxiety, math self-concept, and math self-efficacy, just to see does someone with higher math anxiety struggle more to learn math topics, or does someone who struggles to learn math topics then have higher math anxiety, for example? If possible, studies could test for more causal relationships rather than correlation relationships, just to see which way that relationship goes. They could also look into parent math opinion versus peer math opinion. Is it more important to the student what the parents say and think about math, or is it more important what their peers say and think about math? If, for example, for the peer math opinion, if a student is very good at math, but all of their peers think very poorly about math, are they then going to try to conform and lower their math scores on purpose because that's what their peers think? And are they then going to adopt those negative opinions? Additionally, most studies have been on college students or younger. So there could be some longitudinal studies that look starting at a young age and going all the way up into adulthood to study how people learn math and how they remember math concepts, or whether they don't remember math concepts and how they might apply them, which ones are most important. We can also just look at how adults think and feel about math and how much they use math, since that's not a topic that has really been looked into. Something else that's very important for teaching could be student engagement in math and learning how to keep students involved with math, because that might then promote more learning and a greater appreciation. It might lower math anxiety, it might increase math self-concept, it might increase math self-efficacy. If students are engaged more at a young age, it might stick with them farther into adulthood. And so, in conclusion, there are several factors that have the influence on the cognitive process of behavior of mathematics. Biological components, which include how math is processed in the brain, to potential genetic factors. Psychological components vary from math gender stereotypes to effects of student mindset, and sociological and socioeconomic components focus on how parent math opinion and socioeconomic status affect math success. Math anxiety, math self-concept, math self-efficacy, and math performance, parent math opinion all relate to one another in varying ways. Math anxiety was found to have a detrimental effect on both math performance and math self-concept, whereas math self-concept and math performance, on the other hand, seem to complement each other, where if someone perceives themselves to be better at math, then they will also perform better at math. Math self-efficacy and parent math opinion only related to one another with a positive relationship, showing that the more positive perceived parent math opinions by the student also led to more confidence in the student's math abilities. The implication of these results could have a wide range of uses, especially in terms of raising math scores and engaging children in mathematics. There were several limitations in the study to be improved upon, and the research into the psychology of mathematics is a fairly young field, and it does not cover so far a wide variety of factors outside of math gender stereotypes, and therefore there are many, many, many future directions that research like this can go into. I'm just going to click through my references very quickly. Thank you everyone for watching. Once more, my name is Emily Warrens, and this has been the Psychology of Mathematics, tracking correlations between attitudes towards math and math performance. Thank you.